Okay, so my name's Jody Hartstone. This is my 8-year-old Lusitano stallion Alibaba. He's been in the country just 1 year now, and we've just bought him a couple of lovely Portuguese wives as well, which is why he's 100 kilos lighter than he was a couple of weeks ago before they arrived. He's pretty excited. I own him in partnership with Erin Mortimer, and Erin's here today, so I'd like to thank her for her vision for supporting me and bringing this wonderful breed to New Zealand. And what I want to do here today is just talk about techniques of dressage training and more from my background of the scientific approach to horse training and the general principles to follow when training a horse for dressage. Just appreciate this is a hot-blooded horse, and in an arena like this he may be a little quick today in here on his own. I don't know that we'll show you our best work, but what I really want to just get through is some of the basics of a humane and easy way to train dressage. I think a lot of people that get lessons with me, they're like, wow, that's so easy compared to what I'd learnt. One of the things that everybody wants in dressage, and the same in jumping and even to racing in a certain extent, is that the horse goes at the speed we want, in the direction we want, and particularly for dressage, in the frame that we want. So when I learned dressage to start with way back in the day, I learned, or I certainly heard a lot about, that it was about driving the horse from the leg to the hand, and that you kept the horse in rhythm by keeping the horse between your forward driving aids and your restraining aids. And you often hear that, ride the horse from the leg to the hand, leg to the hand, leg to the hand. And that's what seemed to keep the speed of the horse, was the fact that your legs were clamped on and your reins were clamped on as well. And if he dared speed up, you'd pull on him, and if he dared slow down, you'd kick him. Then I learned to keep the horse in a straight line. You did more of driving the horse from the leg to the hand, and you used your legs like the sides of a river, and you squeezed the horse and pushed him straight between your leg and down to the rein. And on a circle, you might have heard the old inside leg to outside rein thing mentioned ad nauseum several million times during your riding career. And again, it was about your inside leg not letting the horse slow down and or fall in, and your outside leg not allowing the horse to fall out, and you keep the horse on the circle by containing him between your leg and hand. And then to keep the horse round, well, you did a little bit more of playing with its mouth and making it rounder, and if he dared to slow down when you were asking that from the reins, you kept your leg on and kept him forward as you made him round. So just to ride your horse at, say, 10 miles an hour in a straight line or on a circle with its head in a stable position seemed to be about constant leg and rein pressures. And I tell you what, that's no fun if you're a horse. So although horses learn to habituate to heavy pressures, there's always a payoff cost. You see a lot of dressage horses that don't load well, don't travel well, don't stand well at prize givings, and are very, very heavy to ride. I would go to Germany to look at horses to buy and see these horses that looked fantastic, get on them, and my God, you would need the biggest arm muscles and the biggest leg muscles to get these horses to move. Now, no horses are born like that, and dressage is about making your horse more beautiful, not less beautiful. So if it's getting harder in the mouth and harder off the leg, you really are doing something wrong in your training. And one of the biggest mistakes we make is using legs and reins together. And all the classical masters of places like France and Portugal and Spain, they all talked about legs without reins, reins without legs. So that means when you do a downward transition, don't drive forward with your leg at the same time you're asking the horse to slow down from the rein pressures. So I like to train my horse, although I don't train for classical dressage, I train for competition dressage. I still like to keep some of those old adages of things like reins without legs, legs without reins there, because I want my horses to be very, very light. Now I'm showing Alibaba today in the double bridle. I ride him mostly at home just in a snaffle, and I can go through the whole Grand Prix test in a snaffle, no problem at all. But today, because he has to get used to wearing his double in these sort of situations, I've decided to put it on him. You'll see that I leave my curb rein alone most of the time. We can also teach him just to ride straight off the curb rein when he's very highly trained. I'm just going to pop him into trot and give him time to settle. So he hasn't had any time to warm up at all today, which is going to make it a little bit tricky. You'll notice I've got a noseband on the bridle. This noseband is done up loose. I can fit at least 2 fingers between the noseband and his nasal bone, and that is a very, very important thing. Sadly, many of the top dressage horses in the world have their mouths basically wired shut with a very tight noseband. You'll see horses in Holland and Germany, and I've seen them here in New Zealand, with dents in their nasal bones from the tightness of their nosebands. The reason why a horse opens his mouth is to relieve the pressure on his tongue that the bit makes. And if you're doing things like riding the horse too much into the hand, if your contact is too strong, the horse will need to open its mouth to get rid of that tongue pressure. It's quite ironic, I feel, that you can lose so many marks in dressage for the mouth being open, and so that just makes people screw the mouths even tighter shut. But the proof of good training is that your horse should be able to go without a restricted noseband on him and keep his mouth closed. Now, this guy will probably open his mouth a little from time to time. He is, like I said, a hot-blooded horse. He's got much more blood in him than a warm blood would have. So they are a horse that is naturally quite tense. The Lusitano horse is probably the oldest breed of dressage horse in the world. Been bred for 300 or 400 years now as working horses, and also for the bullfight ring. So you need a horse with a lot of energy and a lot of go, but with that comes a lot of natural kind of tension, if you like. It's an eagerness to work rather than a stressed out tension. He's had a hard day today because of the stallions where he's stabled. They're giving each other a hard time, so he's a little bit stressed out. Good boy. So I don't train ever with a flash noseband on my horse. If I need to strap its mouth shut, for me, I've failed the horse. Pretty hard when you're taking on horses that have been trained by someone else, but I would like to live in a world where you're not allowed a tight noseband and you're not allowed a flash strap to cover up the inadequacies in your horse's training. One of the troubles we have with horses is that the flight response in the horse is greater than any other domestic animal. The flight response is stored in a part of the brain called the amygdala, and the horse has the largest amygdala of any domestic animal. Slow down, buddy. So it's really, really important we train the horse without tension and without flight. So not allowing the horse to run, not allowing the horse to buck or show any of those type of behaviours. Good boy. Good boy. So it may take him a little while to settle. These are the kind of horses that settle better the more work you put into them. I could walk him here for 5 hours and he'd still be wanting to go. He's not the kind of horse that's going to get tired. So I'm just going to do the best I can without a warm-up today to show you some stuff. The basic responses I teach the horse under saddle, there's 4 basic responses: stop, go, turn, and yield. So with my go button, that's what I use my legs for. I've got one signal to indicate faster and one signal to indicate longer, because that's the 2 parts of rhythm we have in the dressage horse. We sometimes need a quicker step, we sometimes need a longer step. And then with the rein aid, I can slow down, shorten, stop, and step back. I'm going to show you a little. I'll just pop him into canter here because he's a little bit worried how these work. So in canter, I can slow him down with a rein aid. I use a long, slow rein aid to do that. Good. There's, for him, a slow canter. I can speed up the canter by closing my legs, and that's a long squeeze of my leg, like a 3-second squeeze. And again, slow with the rein, and let go. Slow, and let go. Good. And squeeze with my leg quicker. Good. And then I can do the same with longer and shorter. So my button for longer is a little nudge. And my button for shorter, if we can get it, is a woo, let go, woo, let go, woo, let go. Good boy. And longer, a bump. That was a little too big. And woo, woo, woo. And I'll try a little bit the same in the trot. I can quicken the trot by closing my legs. Whoop, whoop. I can slow the trot by closing my rein. I can slow the trot further by closing it more and closing my seat and body a little bit, which will bring him back onto his hind legs. And again, I can press and say go faster. Ooh. Press for faster. Good boy. He wants to do longer because he's just learning length and trot. So his answer to everything at the moment is to give extended trot a bit of a bash. These type of horses, there's kind of 2 types of horse in the world. You get the ones that are very good at quickening in collection, which is this more Baroque style of horse, and then you have the warm blood type, which is far better, good boy, at lengthening the stride. I would rather get a horse that wants to collect and teach it to extend than get a good extending horse and try and teach it to collect. So for me, a horse like this that wants to climb and come back on it himself is going to make my job as a dressage rider easier. Good. So I'll try a little bit of longer and shorter. I'll do it on a diagonal. Good boy. So it's a little nudge. Whoop. He's hot today. There's some long, good boy. And short. Whoa. Whoa, good boy. Short steps. And I can make them shorter again and shorter again. And the shorter steps he can do are the ones that just stay on the spot. Good boy. Good boy. So it's a little tricky with him today. He's a little bit over anxious. Good boy. So I do a lot of work with the horses in a really slow trot where they just have to stay in balance. Now this is really different from the kind of German school of riding where horses must go forward all of the time. I want my horses to wait for me. This thing would go crazy if I rode him forward, forward, forward. So I just want to do slow trot, even get him to hover a little bit in the trot and wait. And if I loosen the rein, he should stay there. Woo, and stay there. Woo, and stay there. Good boy. Now, a lot of people are worried about riding the horse too slow and even getting into kind of a hovering passage trot. But that's only a problem if you don't have a button to quicken up the legs again. So the moment I close my leg, we can get out of it. And then I can slow down again and leave him alone, leave him alone, leave him alone. Good boy. Quicken him again by closing my leg. Ooh, good boy. That's it. Good. So, 2 aspects to rhythm. You've got to be able to slow the step and shorten the step. You've got to be able to lengthen the step and quicken the step. And as I said, in this environment, that's going to be pretty tricky for him a little bit today. Good boy. Good boy. So you hear a lot of the time in a dressage test, you'll hear the judge say, horse needs to go more forward. I see a few heads nodding in the audience. Oh, yeah, I get that one all the time. What the judge really should say to you is whether your horse needs to be slightly longer in the step or actually needs to be a little bit quicker in the tempo. Because those 2 things are poles apart. to find your good working trot, for instance, you've got to have just the right amount of length to your stride and just the right amount of speed to your stride. The moment you have a little bit too much speed or a little bit too much length, you get a horse that runs onto the forehand. Good boy, just relax. Just relax. Now, I talked earlier on this morning about the use of wither scratches with the horse. You'll see me doing a lot of patting of the horses that I ride. Well, not actual patting as some of you will know it. What I don't want you to ever see me do is this big whack on the neck for the horse. They did a survey of horses at the London Olympics. 2/3 of them being patted in that fashion sped up, which meant the horses found the slapping on their necks at least mildly aversive. So there's no part of a horse that says whacking me on the neck makes me feel good about what I've just achieved, okay? They don't go around high-fiving each other on the neck. What you'll see horses do, though, is a lot of this rubbing of the wither here. That's one reason why I'm a little bit apprehensive about the way we always rug our horses in New Zealand. We're covering up the one spot that horses use to communicate with each other, to calm each other down. That whole mutual grooming spot, we go and slap a big bit of canvas or synthetic material over it so the horses can no longer do that. And you notice when you take the rug off your horse, and it's got a mate in the paddock, the very first thing it does, they go and start scratching each other on the wither. So sometimes I wonder, do we put the rug on for the sake of the horse, or is it just more for the sake of ourselves?